But can you imagine if Danny Ainge had Luka on his team, what he would have got back? He would have got back a whole franchise. He would have got ownership in a franchise.
The GM that dealt with Danny Ainge would be like a fucking cartoon character that had the barrel with the 2 straps with no clothes on, and he just fucking got fleeced. Danny Ainge would take you to the fucking cleaners as far as the deal that he would do for Luka.
Welcome to Rogue Bows, another week, and what a week it has been. Time of recording, obviously the trade, the big trade that everyone wants to talk about, which we'll get to in a second. We're not going to open with it because we're going to stay with our routine and our organizational structure. But what a week in basketball for the NBA. A lot to get through there. NBL heating up, but Pro, don't have to say what's news because we know what it is. But how goes it over there in good old Dallas? You're right in the hotbed of it all.
Yeah, unbelievable, right? I'm at the eye of the storm for sure. Yeah, what a night, man. I'm telling you, I had like 5 games to break down for Division I clients. I break down film for, and I got Shams on my, on the whole, like when he tweets out something, it goes to my phone directly. So I'm like, all right. So I'm looking, I'm thinking like, all right, maybe the Mavericks traded Jaden Hardy for like a future second or something like that. So I'm like, what's happening? And I see Luka Doncic. I'm like, the fuck out of here. So that you're the first guy I hit up because of the time and everything. So I hit you up and I'm like, Bogues, I'm dead serious. I checked this thing 3 times. I didn't get I don't think I got scammed. Then you're telling me people are saying that he got hacked. I'm like, oh fuck. Because it was such a nonchalant deal. It's such a crazy. Anyway, we'll talk about it later, but man, what a night. I didn't get, because I was talking to so many fucking guys about the trade. I didn't get to bed till 4:45 in the morning because I had like 5 games to break down.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. It was unbelievable.
I think everyone was. Trent mentioned that even he had friends and numerous friends in Australia texting him. I had Haral Boss text me. Volgaris reached out. Like I had random texts from all kinds of people too. So we'll get into that in a second.
Dude, I texted Max Christie, because he was my client and great kid. I was like, if this trade actually happened, welcome to Dallas. And I was like, gave him a little spiel. But then I'm like, back to myself, I'm like, dude, if I just texted this kid at 12:30 at New York time and this trade really didn't go through, I'm a fucking asshole. So I was like, Jesus. This is the day and age we live at. How many times have you ever seen a trade where like the first 20 minutes people are thinking that it's fake?
No, it's fake. Like, that goes to how crazy it is, like, which we'll get into. But I was like, what the hell? And then I was like, I think it might be a hack, because especially when you see the Jazz part of the deal, I was like, it didn't make sense. They got, they obviously were in there for some salary dumps and whatnot. But strange. But let's get into our team of the week, and then we'll get straight into that. I've got the Toronto Raptors, bro.
New one.
Yes, they've been playing some good basketball. They are 8-2 in their last 10, funnily enough, and they've just been playing pretty nice basketball. Like over their last 10, they beat Golden State, they beat Boston, then they lose to Milwaukee on the road. They beat Orlando, beat Atlanta back to back, who was supposed to be a playoff team or a fringe playoff team. They beat New Orleans, they beat Washington, so they win 5 straight. They lose to Chicago, which was a bad loss, and then they beat the LA Clippers. So I just like the fact that they are somewhat in tank mode and should have that tank firing up, but they're still competitive. I mean, look, I don't think they make it. Maybe they do. Stranger things have happened, but they're 4.5 games out of 10 and are playing, but they've been playing good basketball. I mean, if you're a bottom half team or a bottom 5 team in the NBA and you manage to go 8-2 in your last 10, you got to get team of the week. So Scotty Barnes having another good stretch within that, putting up some good numbers. Their coach is a fiery guy. I don't know if you saw him get ejected.
Darko.
He's a fiery dude. He was in the refs about to fight him. But I just respect the fact that they're playing good basketball. When you compare them to like a Washington Wizards 1-9, only 7 wins for the season, different rosters, but they're also bottom 5. They've almost, they've completely quit on the season. They're treading water. Charlotte Hornets, same kind of thing. Respect to the Toronto Raptors. They get my team of the week.
Yeah, Bogues, they are playing well for sure. Darko Rajakovic, I met him when he was an assistant at Oklahoma City, and I would talk to him pregame and work Gerd camp together in the summertime. And he is a fight. Like I didn't know how fiery of a guy he is. He was reserved guy. Talked to him in passing, and really good dude. But I mean, it's just pure like comedy. Listen to him talk after a game, like in a press conference, because he goes nuts. I mean, remember a few months ago, maybe last year, it was Scotty Barnes to be the fates of the league.
Yeah.
And then just going nuts, referees. But he's like literally like coaching in the EuroLeague, because those guys chase everybody down. And he's fiery. That's what he does. But he gets those guys to play hard. Look, all those 4 or 5 teams, I mean, Toronto's in it, Washington's in it, Utah's in it. They're all in the, Charlotte's in it. They're in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. And it's unbelievable that these guys are winning so many games and sort of knocking themselves out of it a little bit. I mean, as far as their chances to get the guy, but they're playing hard, man. I mean, it starts with Scotty Barnes, obviously. RJ Barrett's playing well. Grady Dick. I think Quickly was out for a while. They got him. Their bench is solid guys. Olenek, Jacoby Walter, their young kid they drafted out of Baylor. So a Texas kid, Davion Mitchell. I mean, they've played well. They do compete. I mean, they don't lay down. Some of these teams are laying down. They just literally, they're literally game catch the flag. They're just trying to catch the flag, right? That's all they're trying to do. These guys are competing. They're trying to win, which as an organization is a little strange, because I'm sure they do want a competitive product, but they also want a player like Cooper Flag that could really, really bring the franchise up as far as value, and having a guy in a rookie deal that good. But that's a good selection, Bogues. It's a good one.
Who you got?
I got Memphis Grizzlies, Bogues. They're playing great. 7 out of their last 8. I think I watched them. Where did I see them against the Houston Rockets? And it's funny. Like, I don't even know the record, so I'm not even speaking from research. But it seems like they play just as good, if not better, without Ja Morant than with Ja Morant. I'm not one of those guys that say, basically like saying that they don't need Ja Morant. Not at all. Like, you would think that they're going to be 15 points. You think it's like a Jokic, right, in the lineup versus out of the lineup in Denver. You think that about Morant with their team. Without him, he sort of makes it go, but it's really not. I mean, it is, obviously he's such a good player and polarizing player on the floor, but like Scottie Pippen Jr., you throw him in the lineup. I mean, Scottie Pippen went from their development team over there is doing a fantastic job, not only with Pippen, but Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey, and just the rest of the guys. But I mean, Scottie Pippen Jr. went from, in my opinion, dead in the water, as an NBA player a couple of years ago when he was at the Lakers, to a guy that's going to make $20 million a year in free agency. I mean, the guy plays well. He plays in energy. He can get in the paint, step throughs, floaters, plays well. But yeah, they've been playing well. Look, it all starts with Morant, Desmond Bane, polarizing score, and Jaren Jackson playing both ends of the floor, great defender, role guy that can get to the basket, score, good kid. But they play together. They play that new system I talked about with, Noah Roach, the system of very little to no pick and roll, just catching and ripping through and a true dribble drive. And, he's been the architect of that offense, and it's been, it's been for them. I mean, look, they had a bunch of injuries last year. They're not really dealing with as much this year, but that full unit plus the new offense has been great for them. They play together. It's a weird deal, because in the NBA you don't see a lot of it. Maybe outside of about 3 or 4 teams, they cheer for each other. They're they're really energetic. They're good on the bench. Those guys play hard. They share the ball. They put up really good assist numbers. They've been like second in assists most of the year, as far as that's concerned. But they've been playing good basketball for sure.
Yeah, you look at their points spread throughout their team. I think we spoke about this a month or so ago. Super well balanced, and goes to your point of they can sustain games without Morant for long periods. I mean, they obviously he's a needle mover as far as his talent goes, but I think they don't really miss a beat when he's out of the lineup. Even other guys, they miss a guy here and there out of the lineup. They just keep chugging on, right? And you look at that. All right, you got Jackson Jr. He's leading them in scoring, 22.8. Morant at 20.3. Desmond Bane, 17.8. Aldama, 12.7. Wells, 11.7. Kennard, 10.1. Then you even go below that. The guys that aren't averaging 10 are all on the higher side of single digits. You got Pippen Jr. 9.6, Edie 9.5, Smart 9.2, Huff 8.0, Clark 7.8, Laravia 7.6, and then it goes to GG Jackson at 6.7, and then there's a bit of a fall off. But you don't usually see rosters that well balanced with scoring, where it's like any given night a guy can have 15 or 20 within their system. Most teams, the way they're set up these days, especially if you've got a big threes, you got three guys that are in your 20s or high teens, maybe one or two guys in your low teens, and then there's a big fall off. They're super well balanced, and they play that way. And Pippen Jr. is a prime example. I mean, they've had games where they just slot him straight into the starting lineup, and he puts up numbers with Moran out. So I agree that they've been really fun to watch. I think they're well balanced, and I think they play basketball the right way. They play together, they move the ball, they take the right shots, and they've got lineups that can be defensive orientated as well. Jackson Jr. is having a fantastic year for them and leading them in both ends of the floor. So, good pick.
Yeah, they've been playing well. I mean, I know I've had them multiple times in the past, but they're a surprising team this year, Bogues. I mean, we talk about Houston and some other teams, but they're, Houston's been definitely surprising this year, but Memphis has really taken the league by storm in the sense that, the way they play, the way they share the ball, and just sort of an energetic team. It's pretty fun to watch.
All right, my week got to go with the Atlanta Hawks, bro. They've
same.
Yeah, they've been bad. Been really bad. They've lost 8 straight, if you don't mind. Playing some decent basketball through stages of the season, but they've just ran into a buzzsaw. Lost at New York, lost versus Detroit, lost to Toronto twice. If you've got any business trying to be in the top 10, at least getting a play in, you can't beat Toronto 1 out of 2, who are playing well. You got to at least get 1 out of 2 of those. Detroit, they lost to Minnesota, Houston, Cleveland, Indiana. They've got Detroit again today or tomorrow. Sorry. So, but they've just looked clunky. Just I don't know. They have their moments where they look together and in sync, and they have their moments where it just looks disjointed, which you don't usually attribute to a Snyder team that's at least been there for a while now. Like, he's had enough time to try to get this to a position that it's solid. It's just not clicking. Trae Young, 23 points, just under 12 assists. Pissed off he didn't get an All-Star nod. His quote was, "It's not called getting snubbed. It's getting trade is the new terminology he wants it to be known as when you get snubbed. Getting trade." But I'm like, dude, your team sucks. Like, you're not good. You're not very good. You're 9th in a East that your Detroit's above. Like, you should at least be in that fringe 6, 7, 8, and you can't be an all-star with those numbers, especially when you look at the guards the Cavs have, the guards Boston have, Brunson in New York. Halliburton would still be ahead of you as poorly as he's played at times because they're 4th. Dame in Milwaukee 5th. Like, who are you going over? It's so yeah. I thought they'd be a little bit better than they are. Not the end of the world, but I mean they're lucky in the East, mind you. They're 22 and 27, still in 9th spot, 1 game and a half ahead of Chicago. But when you talk about what's happened in Dallas, then this is a team that Trae Young could be another name that we see potentially go. I think has it run its course, bro? Has the Trae Young thing run its course? I know he's a young talent. He can change games, but he's shooting exactly 40% from the field. He's 34 from 3. He's got the 12 assists, but it's to 4 turnovers, bro. So it's not like it's super efficient. I don't know. What do you think?
I think his priorities need to be checked. He shouldn't be worrying about getting traded. Motherfucker should be worried about getting traded. Because I think that I think this has gone its course. Look, he got drafted by the last regime, last GM who's not there anymore. And I just think that, look, this has been far enough. And look, Trae Young, I mean, he puts up numbers 22 and 11. They don't win, but I mean, look, he's a very smart point guard. He could score. He's always been billed as a Steph Curry clone. He just doesn't shoot like Steph. Like, that's the thing. Yeah, he's small.
Well, it's a big part of it. If you're going to be cloned as a Steph Curry clone, you'd want to shoot it similar to him.
I mean, the guy's
That's kind of the important part of it, right?
Yeah, like I always thought that. Like, I remember him in that draft, that year, because we were, in Dallas, we were looking to hit him hard, because we had the 5th pick, and we drafted him and traded him for Luka. But he was a guy that came up a lot, and look, he could put up numbers, he could pass out a pick and roll, but everyone was talking Steph Curry, and I'm like, look, all right, he's a little guard that dribbles around a lot and scores in pick and roll, but he shoots 34 from the 3. He's shooting 33.9 this year. Like, he's not a shooter like that. He's not a shot maker. He could score points, no doubt, but he's a guy that will score 23, 24, probably on 18, 19 shots, and it's a little bit different. And he's a good player, don't get me wrong. He's just not that type of player in that category of a Steph Curry. Steph Curry's obviously one of the best point guards that ever played. It's a hard guy to get compared to, like you said, without putting up the points. But yeah, they're
Steph's
a weird
movement
team,
off the ball. This is where it's not even a close comparison, in my opinion.
Not even close.
The only thing you can compare is they both will pull up a couple of feet over half court. That's the only comparison. Smaller guards. Trey makes no effort off the ball. Doesn't really guard. Doesn't move for his teammates that well. At times he'll pout if he's not getting touches. He needs the ball in his hands. Steph is the master at knowing how to play on the ball and off the ball, and that's why he's so successful.
I mean, watch, when you're a little guard, you got to watch how Steph Curry plays. Not that Steph's this real small guy or anything, but look ahead passes to get the defense on their heels, and trying to generate easy baskets for his teammates. Obviously, the pull up 3, getting the basket, an elite finisher, being able to pass the ball early, or when they put 2 on the ball, pass the ball, sprint to the side of the floor, come off another screen, catch it, drive it, either finish it or give it to somebody else. I mean, the constant movement and the constant energy that Steph Curry plays with, Trae Young just doesn't do that. And yeah, you could compare them because they're point guards. They're not really big and they could score points. But you have to, and Trae Young, for his credit, doesn't average 27 points and 1 assist a game. I mean, he does average 11 and a half assists a game. He does look to get rid of it, but it's a different type of get rid of it versus with Trey, versus Steph. Just Steph can get off it early, get it back, be aggressive. He doesn't have to be on the ball all the time. He's off the ball a lot, coming off screens, constant movement, constant, look aheads, constant simple plays, and then obviously the ridiculous package of scoring and finishing. Neither one are going to win Defensive Player of the Year by any stretch, but the way that Steph gets his team involved in his offensive brilliance is a lot different than Trae Young's. No offense to Trae Young, it's just sort of the, it's just sort of where the league is and when you're comparing players. And so I don't know, Bogues. They do have some pieces to move. I mean, you can get pretty good things for Trey. DeAndre Hunter will probably have a little bit of value. I think that Jalen Johnson's obviously something. So, I think that'll be good. Jalen Johnson will get you something, 18, 19 points, 10 rebounds. But obviously you got to keep some things. I mean, Dyson Daniels is the guy you keep. Defender, solid player, straight line driver. Jalen Johnson's probably a guy because he's young. DeAndre Hunter's probably going to be in the block. I would think Trey's on the block, and I would think Clint Capella at some point in the next 12 to 18 months will probably be moved.
Bogdanovic as well is there, right? Still there,
yeah. Bogey, yep.
He's another one that could be a valuable piece for a championship aspiring team that's in the top 3 or 4. You have him on your bench as a little gunner. Could definitely help. All right, trade. Let's get into it. It's the what the fuck trade of the 2 or 3 decades, I would say. So we'll break down the trade specifics. Here's something that also you will like, Pro. Volgaris just sent me this text, so because he's gone deep dive into all the details of it. But it is AD, Anthony Davis, Christie, 2029 LA first round pick for Luka Doncic, Kleber, Markieff Morris, and then the Jazz got involved with Hood Schifino, 25 Clippers second rounder and a 25 Mavs second rounder. Did you know this, Pro? The other part of the deal that hasn't been mentioned, other than the Mavs giving a second-round pick, Utah had to send out $110,000 to be compliant, $110,000 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
They sent 55 to LA and 55 to Dallas. The Mavs couldn't even get the full 110.
That's weird, man.
The Mavs couldn't even negotiate the full 110K to come to them. They even lost 55K in this deal. There's so many places to go with this trade. The Mavs got fleeced. There's no doubt whatsoever. I think they got fleeced completely. I think the market for Luka Doncic is more than AD, Christie, and a 2029 first. That's first and foremost. They got fleeced. I think, Pro, I'll throw some at you. Luka for Anthony Edwards, who says no? Is that a possibility?
I don't think Minnesota would do it.
But it's a discussion,
to be honest
right?
with you.
It's a discussion, right?
It's a discussion.
Okay.
Yeah,
Luka for SGA and a couple of throw-ins. Discussion?
No, I don't think the way
Okay.
Sam Presti is, I don't think there is.
Okay. And what about Boston? What about Jaylen Brown, Drew, and a throw-in?
Jaylen Brown's definitely discussion, but Jaylen Brown's probably a top 35 player.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Davis probably, in my opinion, in my database, I have him ranked probably 14th in the league.
Yeah.
So he especially the way he's playing, at the tail end of his, I would say tail end of his prime, with the age and the stats, I would say he's probably 12 to 14 in the league.
Yeah, but just some names. I think a better deal could have been done. I think the Mavs obviously a win now. They think that AD, one of their bigs is hurt. Which big is hurt in Dallas?
Lively. Derek Lively.
He might be up for the season, right? Potentially.
3 months, 3 to 5 months,
okay.
I think.
So I think that the thinking is with Dallas, we get AD, we're pushing all our chips to the table for the next year, 2 or 3, and get a championship, right? That's the thinking there, and we get Anthony Davis has been fantastic, does have injury issues, doesn't suit up a lot. He's missed a lot of games lately, but this season's been pretty good. He could be the piece that with the guard play that they have, they've still got some very good guard play in Dallas, still got a pretty decent roster. They could, obviously Kyrie needs to stay healthy, but they could steal a championship in the next year or two. And I think it is kind of open at the moment. I know OKC's dominating, but I think they probably feel this is the time to make that move. For the Lakers, it's a no-brainer. You get a 25-year-old in his prime who's a genuine 10-year piece for your franchise that you've got that guy. From Dallas's point of view, the rumors, reports, Luka at 272 pounds at the moment, severely overweight, reports that hasn't really been great with his rehab, trying to get back from that calf. Reports that Dallas were kind of just sick of dealing with the conditioning issue, the defensive liability issue. I will say this, I think it's ballsy as fuck by the Dallas Mavericks from the point of we're just going to move off this and not deal with it anymore. And I think this, like I said at the start, they got fleeced. I'm not agreeing with the trade like for like, but I'm agreeing somewhat, not agreeing, I'm intrigued by Dallas's push to just say, we're done with this, we're moving on. Like it's not going to work for us. The new owners are a bit on the more stingy side, I believe, Pro. They're not, from what I understand, I wouldn't say they're cheap, but they're not all out spenders. They had huge reservations about the Supermax with Luka and health and conditioning. But that's where it all gets interesting. I think this is potentially, Kevin Durant just made some comments saying that if Luka's tradable, we all are. The player empowerment era, Pro, that we always talk about. That's why it's ballsy from Dallas's point of view, even though they got screwed in the trade. It's just going to be interesting to see where it all goes from here. But there's so many things to unpack. It's just a crazy, crazy trade, bro.
Folks, if you're going to trade Luka, you're going to trade Luka. Okay, if that's the way they want to go with it, if they're going to put that line in the sand about conditioning, weight, even though the guy averages 28.7, like 28.8 and 8 in his career,
just went to the finals.
He busts ass. He got you to the finals and a conference finals. Okay, so That's what he's done for you. Going, at age 25, he's got that on his resume, which most players haven't. Like AD hasn't led his team to a conference final, hasn't led his team. He's always been sort of the second guy. And again, I don't get into that, but if you're just trying to be real about it, that's fine. I'm very curious about the timeline that Dallas feels as though they needed to do this deal. Usually in something like this, you would see what you can get out there. Now, look, there's not a lot to get out there as far as like if you're trying to win a championship still. If you're just trying to like lay off of them and get 9 draft picks, I don't think they want to go that route. I think they want to continue. Look, they got the taste of the finals. They want to still get there. They want to still be competitive. My thing, though, Bogues, is why not wait another year, all right? Another year to see what happened in Milwaukee. If Milwaukee flames out of the playoffs, you might be able to do a Luka for Giannis swap. Now, before we even get into that, look, it's hard to sit in that chair that Nico's sitting in. It's not easy. A lot of people like to play, like chair GM and just, go to the trade machine in ESPN and think they're a GM. Sometimes there are pressures to do things from your ownership, from different aspects of it. We don't really know the true relationship between Luka and the organization. We're not there every day, so we don't know. From what we've been told, he didn't demand a trade. He didn't demand to get out. And this just sort of came as a surprise, which I'll tell you what, this is a world record of keeping this thing silent. Usually this thing would have been leaked. And I think that's part of the reason why they didn't tell LeBron and they didn't tell people, because they don't want to get it leaked. They just wanted to go direct, team to team. So, all right, so you make this trade and obviously it gets Dallas older. You get this 25-year-old guy that is, I have him as the best player in the league when he's healthy, but it doesn't matter. He's in the top 5, however you shake it. He's in the top 5. He's a guy that, you can get you so much in trade in the next couple of years. You don't have this rush. You have Anthony Davis that, yes, you will get you, right now, a healthy Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving. You don't have to wait for them to get in shape or anything. They're there. They're ready. They've got a decent roster. Even though here's the thing, though. You've got Derek Lively, in my opinion, is the best young rim protector in the league. He's out for the year. So, it'll be interesting what they do when he's fully healthy, and then Anthony Davis and things going forward from there. But it's just, Luka has been so good. And look, sometimes you got to deal with some things in the league. You're saying, well, he's defensive minded. Anthony Davis is defensive minded. You tell me guys in the top 10 that are defensive minded. Most of this league, especially on the top of it, they're offensively minded. Luka is a genius with the ball. He's really good with some things. Now, obviously, you're sitting there as a GM. If you're like a Pat Riley, Pat Riley will probably have those, those thoughts a little bit about somebody who's out of shape, not passing conditioning tests and things like that. If that's the line in the sand, that's fine. But what you got back and what you could have just sort of try to get data as far as what you can get for him. I'm saying like a Giannis, a Jaylen Brown, possibly. But again, you got Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is a better deal than Jaylen Brown. The only thing about Jaylen Brown is his trade value or value of what he brings to the organization going forward a decade. His age, definitely becomes a factor. Anthony Davis he's 31. You could probably try this for a couple of years. If it doesn't work, you could probably move off of Anthony Davis for, pretty good, a pretty good sort of package of things if it doesn't work. But it just makes you older. It's interesting how they do that. And on the flip side of things, that LA, now you have your player past LeBron. You don't have to worry about that. That's been a big worry in the last 18 months as far as like, what are they going to do? LeBron's getting to this age. We don't have anybody else. They haven't been a draft team because they've just never been that bad. 90% of the years in the last 30 years, they've been, competing for a championship or on that top level. So they haven't really drafted a guy that they could bring along. It's always been free agency trade that they brought these players in. So now you have Luka Doncic. So now you could start building around him for the next decade or so as far as how you're going to get this thing right. You've got so much time. Their biggest thing is, what do you do trying to get a big, like, because they have no big.
Yeah, they're gonna be bad now. They're not gonna be. I mean, Luka's hurt. can they tread water to stay in the race? How far has there been any mention of? If he's 272 pounds right now, he's not back for at least another month or two, right?
Well, is he 272 now, or was he 272 throughout the year at some point?
I heard it was pretty recent. This was before it
Okay.
broke the media.
Okay.
Someone that know at Dallas
I have no idea.
said it was
But
272 and they couldn't get him to do much rehab wise. But point being, like, I don't think LA's, like you said, it's a future build. Their roster's not great. Him and LeBron won't. I don't think that's a great fit. But I think LeBron's probably on the way outer. If he plays on next season, it might be. I highly doubt it's with the Lakers or they move him on potentially. But you've got to.
he said he's staying
next
now.
season.
Of course, it's LeBron. I think it was rumored that he's going to stay.
So he's a corner 3-and-D guy then with Luka with the ball.
Well, I think they'll just like Luka and Kyrie. I mean, they figure out how to sort of get them both, both involved. And I
the
think
usage is just so high for both of them, bro. They're both max usage guys. Like they don't love playing off the ball. They not pout, but they can be quite unhappy, and it's noticeable if you just stick them in the corner. But maybe they'll get it because it's like for like talent wise, and they're like, I get it,
I think it'll be better than people think. I think that LeBron since D Wade hasn't had another player like this that could have the ball in his hand. And to be honest with you, Luka, in my opinion, is a much better player as far as a guy that you could build around than AD. No offense to AD, he's a great player. But like LeBron's teammates, I think that a young Kyrie was really good for him. But I would think that D Wade's the only guy that you could probably put in that whole stratosphere of Luka. And I think the Laker organization for the first time was like, look, we don't really, no offense, but we don't really care anymore about, look, if you want to do this, if I was JJ Redick, I'd be like, look, we're going to get this thing done, but we gotta put you off the ball a little bit. This guy's got to have the ball in his hands a fair bit. So is LeBron. But look, this isn't new to LA to have two guys with high usage. Him and Anthony Davis were extremely high usage. It would be different now with two guards versus that. And I think that if Luka could get into decent shape by the end of the year and they could still tread water with this thing, they're still in a position to do okay. The difference is now they'll have to go after a big. And I think that, Rui Hachimura, Kleber, Connect, three guys that they'll probably look to move to get something else. Dorian Finney-Smith's one of Luka's favorite teammates of all time. They're going to keep him, in my opinion. So now you're going to have to get a big. Now, the names that I would think they're going to go after, Kessler is a clutch client, so that'll probably be number one. Valanciunas, Podol, Ayton, Capella, Nurkic, Landale, Robert Williams from Portland are probably names that they're going to probably look to get and acquire. That you can't really get a lot for Hachimura, but like he's probably got the most. I don't think they're going to move off of Reeves. I think having Reeves, is a decent ploy. I don't think that you could trade Reeves to get a big. I think Reeves got too much talent for that, and too much value to them. So it'll be interesting how they assemble this roster. But I'll tell you what, Rob Pelinka's been getting a lot of shit all year about not bringing another guy.
Well done.
Yeah,
like he fleeced the city of Dallas. Absolutely. And look, I think the only way we look back on this trade historically is if Dallas gets a championship in the next 3 years. And we look at it as it's still not going to be a fair trade, in my opinion, but it gets a bit of parity. You're like, okay, you got your chip. It kind of worked out. If Dallas don't get a chip or Davis goes through the injury bout for a couple of seasons and it gets blown up, this will go down as one of the worst trades of all time. If that happens,
it's getting massacred. And look, I understand what Nico is doing, right? He wants to put his own stamp on this thing.
He sure did. He's fucking done that. He's put his own stamp on it.
No doubt about it.
I don't know if it's the right color stamp. It's the throw up emoji.
Hold on,
stamp.
folks. As we're talking, De'Aaron Fox is getting traded to San Antonio for Zach LaVine to the Kings. So
what?
I don't
this
know.
Front office sports or is it shams?
No, this is shams. It goes right to my phone. So I don't think he got hacked again this time. So I'll tell you the trade right now. Let me just get to it.
Wow. Man,
So, yeah, so Sacramento is finalizing a deal for De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio in a multi-team trade that moves Zach LaVine to the Kings, according to ESPN. Wow.
that's big for the
Wow.
Spurs. You pair Fox up with Wemby. Who do the
Yeah.
Spurs give
So,
up? Who? Must be Chris Paul and someone else probably.
no. Yeah, I mean, possibility, but I think Keldon Johnson, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea, but like to me, I think like Vassell will probably be a guy. They'll probably keep Castle, Shampenny, Keldon Johnson, Vassell. One of those guys are probably in the deal if I had to guess. Maybe Chris Paul. They're talking about Chris Paul possibility to the Lakers. In some type of like wave, if they go to free agency. But that this whole trade isn't done yet.
And yeah, when Trey and I were talking about it off air, and we said it leading into this pod before we knew about it, that this will likely have other dominoes fall now. And it's only been less than 12 hours. LaVine has been on the hot seat, so that's no surprise. The Fox thing is interesting. Coaching change in Sacramento was reportedly because he wasn't a huge fan of Mike Brown, and then you end up trading him. So I think that's a great deal so far until we know more. For San Antonio, you put together that speedy guard with the length of Wemby. I like that a lot. Maybe Harrison Barnes, our guy, ends up back in Sac. Who knows? But it will be interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, now you have your cornerstones. I think they've done a good job developing, bringing some players in around Wemby. Chris Paul has probably been a great for the education of Wemby, how to play. Maybe they don't move Chris Paul. Maybe they have an idea of playing both Fox and Paul together. Who knows? I know they like Vassell, but he's got a high price tag. He hasn't been great this year yet, so who knows? But now having Fox and Wemby, so now you could just work on, all right, who are going to be these like younger role players we're going to bring in that are just going to be around these two. Now we have our cornerstone. Now we sort of build it this way. But yeah, that's interesting as we talk about that. But yeah, Bogues, I don't know, man. I mean, like, I mean, obviously everybody's shitting on Nico about the deal and everything, and it's just weird about why do you have to do it on a random Saturday night that, all right, we're just going to do it, and no one really knew about it, and now you're just going forward with it versus like, all right, let's see what the value is for this guy. Like I said, I mean, yeah, the word is that now I don't know if it's true enough that they went after Wemby and they said no, San Antonio. You would never do Wemby for Luka. Just
Wemby and Jokic are probably the only two untouchables, right? Like for Luka, right?
Possibility maybe of Shea, but that's about it. There's not many guys that are untouchable.
I would have Wemby and Jokic and Shea potentially,
Yeah.
But yeah, they wouldn't do that. But can you imagine if Danny Ainge had Luka on his team, what he would have got back? He would have got back a whole franchise. He would have got ownership in a franchise.
The GM that dealt with Danny Ainge would be like a fucking cartoon character that had the barrel with the two straps with no clothes on, and he just fucking got fleeced. Danny Ainge would take you to the fucking cleaners as far as the deal that he would do for Luka. But look, like if you're that, maybe Nico, ownership was like, look, we got to win a championship now. Like maybe, who knows? We don't know. Like no one knows about what really happened. And that's the thing about when you're judging GMs on this, you just don't know what you're dealing with. Like, everybody gave Sam Presti issue with trading Harden for like Jeremy Lamb and a bunch of picks from Houston. But his owner didn't want to go in the luxury tax. So It's not like Sam Presti was like, we got to get rid of Harden for this Jeremy Lamb kid.
And the owners in Dallas would have to approve it, right? Like there's no, this isn't happening without ownership approval. So like I said, there are some theories that they did not want the Supermax for Luka. They're worries about that, and they're on the cheaper side as far as the luxury tax. So
and it costs Luka $160 million on his deal because he can't do the Supermax now.
Get that out. He will be the face of the league, though. He will now be in a team that's on national TV every week. There's all those theories going around about. My whole thing is why the Lakers, though. Like, why the Lakers? Everyone, why the Lakers? But just for some context of the last few trades, when you look at the Mikal Bridges trade, right? This is what Brooklyn received. So the outgoing was Bridges, Bates Diop, and a second round 26 pick. Brooklyn received Bogdanovic, Shake Milton, Diakite, role player, New York first in 25, Milwaukee first in 25. They get a second in 25 from New York. They get New York's first in 27, New York's first in 28, which was a swap, New York's first in 29, and a 2031 New York first. That was for that. And I understand your point about, Dallas didn't want the picks, but just giving people context of what Mikal Bridges have brought back. And the Wolves got rid of Rudy to Utah Jazz in exchange for Pat Beverly, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, Leandro Bolmaro, draft rights to center Walter Kessler, Minnesota's 23, 25, 27, 29 first-round picks, and a 26 first-round pick swap. So when you read up all that, I mean, yeah, look, Dallas got fleeced. Like, we don't have to go into it anymore, but it's going to be interesting to see. And look, Luka is, with all the bullshit, with his rehab and weight and conditioning and defense, he's a savant when it comes to making big plays in games to win you a playoff series. That's on record. So I think it's just the issue of dealing with him, health and fitness throughout a regular season. You get him in a playoff series, he's going to win you a playoff series single-handedly, and he's proven that. So watch his space.
Now, do you think Dallas has a chance in the next 3 years to go to a final with this team? Because they are a good team. I mean,
I think
the
so.
problem is
it's
now,
an aging roster, though. Like, it's like Clay, Kyrie,
just for reference, they're
Davis.
currently 26 and 24, sitting in 9th place in the West.
Yeah.
So
They've had a bad injury run over the course of this season. But
I mean, Luka out, Lively out.
Yeah, Kyrie's been out for a
Kleber
stretch.
out.
Kyrie's
been
for a
out.
stretch. So they've had some injury issues. But
yeah,
I think that, do they have a chance? I just don't think. I think OKC's once again a very good regular season team. Will they get it done in grind out playoff series? I still think it's pretty open. Like, from the West point of view, I just, Memphis is good, but are they there yet? Houston, I think it's as open as it can be, bar maybe OKC's been so strong in the regular season, but they haven't proven they can get over that hump with a young team. So I think Dallas's thinking is, let's just roll the dice this next couple of years before, like, OKC another year time, 18 months. I think they're going to own this decade, probably towards the latter end of this decade, in my opinion. They probably see a little window here to try to sneak one. Easier said than done, right? Like, so it is interesting, and it's just, I don't know, bro. It's a good question. Do I think would I put my money on Dallas winning a championship in the next 3 years? No, but arguably they have just a good, if not a better, chance of keeping Luka on the roster winning a championship than making the deal for AD, even with the injuries, right? Like, I know you get a better defender and whatnot, but. You've also now lost Kyrie has a bad night. Who else is creating shots for you in the perimeter? Clay's catch and shoot guy. They don't really have Hardy, maybe. I don't know, but it's, interesting.
Well, the only thing, you look back at the front office in Dallas, like, you get the Brunson deal where, like, they would have been a lot. And again, it's easy to look at these things for sure, but like, you had the Brunson deal where you could have got him for like $18 million a year. And nobody really wanted to take credit for, all right, who messed that one up? And it is what it is, right? So you had this deal where you could have got him for $18 million. Even if you didn't like Jalen Brunson, didn't think he was going to be an all-star or a really good player, you had him on the cheap for 18. He wanted to sign it, his last year of his rookie deal when he was a second-round pick. So you could have done 18, and you could have traded him and another player for Kyrie, and then still had Dorian Finney-Smith, still had the defensive-minded player to really, an elite defensive player to really help out. You get Kyrie, still have Luka, Kyrie with Dorian Finney-Smith, Dinwiddie, and a couple of other of these pieces. But when these mistakes that you make would cost you, because now they had to throw Dorian and most of their role players into that deal to Brooklyn to get Kyrie. So now you have Kyrie, Luka, and nothing left. Then they steal the Lively pick, so they start rebuilding what they had. But you could have had a lot more pieces around Luka, going forward. It's easy to say that, I get, but now look, Anthony Davis he's averaging 26 and 12, probably having his best year. It could be his best year of his career, and he's healthy. I get it. And, Nico worked for Nike. He's a big Anthony Davis guy. There's a relationship there as well. So that bias in this league is, when you have, bias in the past as far as having relationships with somebody, that sort of figures in. Look, they probably got one of the best players right now they can get for him. I don't think, none of these teams are going to give you a top 5, top 6 player. They felt as though they've got that, but they are aged. And now sometimes we get caught up in like, all right, they're a championship team, but do they have these young assets, or are you built for now? Or are you built for later? Look, they thought that this is the best team they could put on the floor. I get.
Do you think they reached out to other teams? This is the thing. I don't think they did, because it would have been leaked. If they would have reached out to a few other teams for kick the tires on Jokic, or even Wemby, like you said, Boston, whatever. The more teams you contact, the more this shit gets leaked. The fact that it wasn't leaked before it happened leads me to believe they hadn't really reached out to many teams.
In a press conference today, when he was asked, Nico confirmed that he only spoke to one other team outside the Lakers. Like he's publicly said that.
Supposedly it's San Antonio, but also Bogues, like outside of a couple of players that they could actually get, and that's the thing that you have to look at. Who can you actually get? Not like phony, trade machine bullshit. So like Anthony Davis is probably the best player they can get. That maybe the ownership like got a taste of the finals. Like, fuck this. We paid $6 billion for this team. No, we're staying in this fucking thing. So the 6, 7, 8, 9 pick you can get for Luka, yeah, that's great. But you're like, wait a minute, do we want to go through a rebuild? Every other team will probably do that and say, let's get off Luka. But Luka wasn't forcing his way out. They felt as though they needed to trade him. If the ownership's saying, look, we need to stay competitive in the finals, outside of like Jaylen Brown, and I don't think Jaylen Brown would have done it for you, to be honest with you. No. Like Anthony Davis is that player that does it. It's not perfect. I don't support it. I think it's a bad trade for sure. But I just don't understand why you had to do it today. Why not go into the offseason and say, look, we're going to find the best package. But again, the best package.
Bidding war, for sure.
Yeah.
Brunson and OG, go back, bring Brunson back to Dallas. Yeah. There's an option there as well, spitball and stuff. But salaries obviously need to match. But I think they could have done better. But they've done it now, and we'll get to critique it from our armchairs. And then a little trade that went under the radar a couple of days before that. Patty Mills, Australian brethren, has been traded to the Clippers. Eubanks and Mills go to the Clippers. The Jazz get Tucker, who has been an issue with the Clippers. He'll probably be waived, I assume. Your guy Mo Bamba and a 2030 second rounder pros go to the Jazz.
Bamba got waived today.
Did he? Well, there's one.
Yeah. Shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Shanghai Sharks are really happy about that.
Yeah. But that's one that goes on the radar. I mean, Patty's probably not going to play much in the Clippers, but they get a bit of a gunner as an insurance policy because it looks like they're making a playoff push. Don't tell me there's another trade, bro.
No. Here's the full trade. So De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin go to Spurs. Zach LaVine, City, Sissoko, 3 first-round picks, 25 Charlotte, 27 Spurs, 31 Minnesota, 3 second-round picks, 25 Chicago, 28 Denver, 28 own pick that they got back. That's what the Kings got. And the Bulls get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, their own 25 pick via San Antonio Spurs. So that's the full trade.
It's a Bulls rebuild. Sack get something there, and interesting all around. But
it goes to show you almost every contract's tradable.
Yeah.
Because nobody got they've been trying to deal Zach LaVine for like 2.5 years.
Yeah. Spurs win that one though. I think that's looking at it quickly without dissecting it, they win that one. All right, moving on from trade stuff. Scary Terry Rozier, pro, investigated by the feds. Allegedly altered his play as part of an illegal betting scheme in March of 2023. He left the game, I guess a shitload of unders were put on him, bet on him. He left the game after 10 minutes with a foot injury. I don't know if you've seen the video of that injury, Pro, but people have posted it online, found the exact clip where he got hurt. He shot a pull-up jumper with no one near him, came down and looked at his foot and didn't play again. So obviously with everything going on with Porter, the league and betting agencies and whatnot are probably going back and checking certain betting patterns, and he was in Charlotte at the time on his rookie deal, still making decent money. I don't know what pick he was, but he was still making decent money. Was he a lottery?
Yeah, I think it was the Boston Celtics drafted him. I think he was sort of like, if I want to guess, he's like the 13th pick, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, let me get it real quick.
16th overall
Miami
in 2015.
16th?
2015?
Yeah.
Why the hell is he doing this in 23? He was still making he's got to be. Can you check his career earnings, Pro, Trent, to date? I thought he was maybe still in his rookie deal as to why he was doing it.
No, fuck that. He's at 100 million, brother. He's like 24 million.
Now he is now. But what was he at roughly up to 23? He'd be probably.
He signed a 4-year, $96 million deal with the Charlotte Hornets.
In what year though?
2022.
Yeah. He's at the end of it.
This makes no sense whatsoever.
Veteran extension 2022 to 2025.
You're making $20 million a year, and you're probably getting a couple $100K from some mafia dude. But anyway, bro, another one, and I think there is many more. I think if they're starting to find, you just wonder how many other people are involved in some capacity with this kind of shit, bro.
Well, Bogues, we talked about it right when this gambling stuff started coming up with the NBA. First of all, I mean, you have to expect it if you're the NBA. You can't put your head in the sand and think that we're going to have all this gambling around, that someone's not going to partake in it. And right when it came out, the first thing that I said was, it's not like point shaving about, Charlotte's -5 against this team. It's not going to be those types of bets. It's going to be the prop bets, because all you have to do is like tell your boy, look, I'm not gonna pass as much tonight. I'm gonna pass more and not shoot as much. Like, it's so easy. And what happens is, if you have a bad foot, you tell your boy, his boy tells 50 other people, and then it goes. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. I have no intel, but I know the NBA had their own investigation, and I know the feds actually got involved. And when the feds get involved, it's not like they have nothing. They usually have something. And with the irregular betting patterns that happened that night, you'd only, again, you're thinking about, I mean, is he into money? Like, is he into gambling debts that he had to pay off, and said, all right, man, I don't want to cut this check for $400,000.
Wow, $20 million you're making a year. Like, what have you got yourself into? Like, it's just that's mind-boggling. You can understand, kind of, your brain can go towards a Porter that's making $1 million a year, and you're like, or $2 million or whatever, and you're like, okay, I can't understand it. Not for the regular Joe, but like if you've lost $300-400 in gambling, there's your salary after taxes. I'm going to try to reel it back by cheating. Get it? Like, guy making $20 million, $90 million over the course of that deal is going to make over $100 million in his career. You're just like, what are you doing? Yeah. What the fuck are you doing?
I would assume, Bogues, if I had to guess, that he was into some debt. Instead of just wanting to write a check, he did this, and then maybe he did it one time. Maybe he did it multiple times. That's what I'm saying. No doubt. But what I'm saying is, he did it once, and then maybe they're like, dude, now you're into us because 100%. You did this. We could just fucking rat you out. I don't know. I have no idea. But it's bad business for I think the NBA really has to try to cut back on these prop betting. I think, like, to be honest with you, having guys that are in the starting lineup, I think, like, you should designate one guy that you can do this with and a superstar. And I don't think superstars are going to be doing this. I think it's going to be the fourth guy, the fifth guy, maybe the third guy might do it if they're going to do it, or the bench guy.
The NBA can't stop it, though.
All those.
They can stop the ones on American soil. Are you going to stop the ones in Bulgaria and Hungary and
I think
the damn wall's broken with this shit?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken on this, I think with after the Porter thing, they took off all bench players from prop bets, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that something's going to have to happen, because this is going to happen again. They're going to catch it again. They're going to catch other people.
100%.
Somebody's going to
veteran,
get caught,
end of his career. not doing well financially, plays 5 to 10 a night. Like this, it's so ripe for and the prop shit just makes it so easy. And then like you said, the prop ones are easy to catch because you can be like, all right, like Joe Blow who plays 6 minutes a game is that all the markets have moved to bet on him. What's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like he's faked an injury. But the one you can't really, like you said, I just had a bad shooting night. Put my prop under 50% field goal percentage, or put my prop under, 15 points tonight. I'm just not going to shoot as much. Like, then it's like, okay, well, like then you got to figure out the integrity of the game. Were you really trying to miss that? Oh, it rimmed in and out. Like, it's like, fuck, like it's a shit show, absolute shit show. But you get in bed with gambling. The NBA kind of held course for so long. The damn wall was up and then they let it in. DraftKings, whatnot, this, that. I've got no problems with people gambling, but you let that into your league and the damn wall's broken. I think it's going to be very hard to rebuild that damn wall now. Like they got, plus all these betting agencies that just set up in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic and Bulgaria, all parts of the world. Like it's going to be very hard to reel back. We have a huge issue with it in Australia. It's everywhere. I'm not against it. Like I said, I think it's a saturated market. But it's, in Australia, Pro, we have the ads my kids make fun of. And it's like, gamble on our stuff. And, it's a guy, sports car, everything's going well. I'm going to win all this money. And, you get so easy. You just place the bet and you win. And then at the end, it's like the government makes them put a message saying, like, think about what you're really gambling with. And just like my 8-year-old's like, why the hell why do they tell you it's good and then tell you it's bad? And he's 8.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's a valid point. Like it's stupid, but
it's the dumbest thing ever. Like they go into this huge commercial about how great betting is, how much money you're going to be.
Funny,
and gambling problem, you call 1-800, I got a fucking gambling problem. And I'm like, Jesus, guys. I mean, come on, man.
You're killing my buzz of having a chance to win, man, So anyway, we'll see how that goes. Adam Silver chatting about NBA and 40 minutes pro. I found this very interesting. Do I think it happens? No, but I think the fact that it's been talked about, I think it would be great. I'm putting it on record. I know there's people that I was kind of the opposite 10 years ago. I thought, the NBL should go to 48 minutes. It's better. I think it'd just clean up so much shit in the NBA and so much dead time, and it would value possessions so much more. FIBA possessions are so much more valuable, bro, because it's 40 minutes. Like you're eliminating a couple of minutes a quarter. I think the game becomes much more strategic and every possession matters much more. 48, not a huge fan of it now that I've watched FIBA more than I have in the, I've probably watched more FIBA the last 3 or 4 years than I had the NBA, and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think they should start crawling before they walk. I think, one of the biggest buzz kills in the NBA is overtime. As far as what is it, a 5-minute overtime, and I think you could do better with like two or 3 minutes, and then start shaving off. Here's the thing, though, you start shaving off time. You start shaving off time for the, for NBA games. I don't know who has to vote on that, because now the players will probably have a stink because it's less stats to 8 less minutes. I agree. I think
all-time
10 minutes
stats
is great.
Get screwed over, but I mean, it's less. The NBA games just go too long now too. It's just like with all the stoppages and timeouts, TV timeouts, and this and that and that and this, and then you got the last 2 minutes where there's reviews. It's like, holy shit, they're pushing. Some of them can push to close to 3 hours of free throws, and you're just like, it's too much. And I think players don't value possessions as much. Yeah, players don't value possessions. The
challenges are a challenge, but they need to do it. Maybe try it in the G League, maybe try it in Summer League, maybe try it. Try it in different. I think they do it in Summer League as is now, but I think look, I'm all for it. I'm not 12 minutes, whatever, but
it's TV
I think
time.
Start with
that's
overtime.
Commercials. That's why they lose 8 minutes of play time, which brings another couple of commercials. I don't know. Give the teams
be all right, man.
Well, give the teams more timeouts. Then I don't know, but I think 40 would be decent. Just finally, a nice quote from Zion Williamson for you, Pro. I don't know if you saw this one.
I did. I thought it was AI. Actually, I literally thought it was AI. I didn't think it was real.
I saw the actual interview, so I knew it wasn't AI. He was asked about back-to-backs. He still can't play back-to-backs. He said, "If I can play back-to-backs, I would, but I work for the Pelicans," which
Actually,
segues
if you
into
looked at the games, if you look at the games missed, I don't think you do work for the Pelicans. You haven't worked for the Pelicans in a while consistently, so I think they're both fucked up. I think both parties are fucked up on this one, Bogues, to be honest with you.
And if I'm looking at Dallas making this ballsy move and moving on, and I'm looking at fucking New Orleans and like, hey, knock, knock. Like, we're trying to wake up, man. Smell the roses. Like, you've been dealing with this for 3 or 4 years now. Like, move on. And I think that they're a prime example. They're notoriously a team that doesn't want to overspend, and you've got a bit of an issue, elephant in the room. I think they could be the other one that I think, looks towards moving. So we'll see how it goes. All right, useful or useless, pro. So trios with the most minutes played together, pro, in the NBA. So any trio, so 3 players in a rotation.
I know what a fucking trio is, but thank you. I appreciate that.
I thought you think it's some kind of food or something. I don't know. But trios with the most minutes played together in the NBA. Give me your rough top 7.
Top 7 trios?
Oh, just give me some. Throw some out there that you think would be in the most minutes played together in the NBA.
Shit, I would say somebody probably from Oklahoma City, but I would say like Shea, Dort, and Jalen Williams.
Okay.
Give me a second. All right, NBA. Shit, so many injuries, bro.
You got any guesses, Trent?
Top trios, I would go...
Without Googling, whatever the hell you're doing.
No, I'm just looking at teams. I would go... Probably go out east, to be honest. So...
Oh, yeah. Brunson, Bridges.
Yeah.
Josh Hart.
Yep, that's one.
I'd go Garland, Mitchell, Mobley.
All right, I'll stop the suspense. All 7 of them play for the Knicks. All 7 trios. 1 is Mikal, Jalen, OG. 2 is OG, Josh, and Jalen. 3 is Josh, Mikal, and Jalen. So on and so forth. And then the bottom 3 include Cat in those rotations.
What?
So all 7 of the highest playing trios in the league are on Thibs' Knicks, pro. Useful, useless.
I don't know, man. Everybody gives fucking Tibbs a bad rap on this thing. I mean, fuck. They play minutes, so what?
I know, I just found it funny. It's a nice trick question because you would never think that. You'd be like, that's why I guess Pro didn't find it funny.
I just thought it was team for team. Yeah, it is funny that it's all on one team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely useful. Fuck. I mean,
it's useful as far as that. It's kind of a stupid stat, but like your top 7, it's a quirky trick question for our listeners. So I know hopefully they enjoyed it more than Pro. I wasn't a huge fan of it. All right, Pro. We have a player that's in his 5th year, making $20 million per year, and we're going to compare his rookie year stats to his 5th year stats. He's making $20 million a year, bro. And I want to see if you know who it is. Rookie year, 9.2 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 48% from the field, 39% from 3. Current 5th year, making $20 million a year, 9.1 points, 3.8 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 37% field goal, 35 3-point. So the only stat he's doing better in is 2.2 assists per game in his 5th year. Everything else is below his rookie year.
He's making $20 million.
He's making $20 million in his 5th year in the NBA. And his rookie year stats were all better besides assists. Who am I?
I have no idea, Bogues. Who do you got?
It's a guy I was spoken about before. He's out east.
Hold on. You said it's $20 million.
He's making $20 million per year.
Hold on. Let me see. $20 million a year. Who the fuck could it be?
Yeah.
Brogdon.
Is it Kobe White?
Kobe White, no.
That would have been
Jared Allen.
No, it is Patrick Williams for the Bulls.
Patrick Williams. How about
that?
that?
The other day, yeah. So
$20 million.
His rookie numbers are all better than his 5th year numbers with the Bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. That's not useful, useless, just an interesting trivia. And useful, useless, pro. First time in NBA history that reigning All-NBA players have been traded for each other in the middle of the season.
Yeah, I mean that's useful. I mean, I've been trying to go over some of the best trades that happen with like player for player. Iverson for Chauncey Billups, Barkley for Jeff Hornacek. You just can't get. I mean, you can get one great player traded, during a season, whatever, but you can't get these two players that meant
10,
that much to the league that are traded. That's definitely useful. That's definitely useful.
Useful. I assume it's probably, I have to do some research, but because of the wording, it says in the middle of the season. If I'm a betting man, I would say it's maybe happened in the off season once, maybe. We'd have to look it up just because of the wording of it. But regardless, like two top 10 players traded for each other, you just don't see that shit very often. So interesting. Aussies of the week. It is gone to Dyson Daniels again. Last week was a tie. We couldn't split him. Dyson Daniels, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals per game. Giddy, a little bit behind with points, 12.3 points, 5 rebounds, 7.3 assists. Both teams aren't doing that well, but Dyson Daniels gets it from the stats.
Did you see the step back 3 from Jock Hardendale the other night?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes. Jock from the top of the key.
Jock Hardendale.
Yeah. Hardendale. Yeah.
Step back fucking 3.
Nice little step back. And Dante Exum is back from injury for the Mavs. So I think there's some minutes for him in that lineup now with obviously Luka going and just his skill set. I think he'll find some decent, valuable minutes there. We wish him all the best with his come back from injury. Fact or fake news, pro? I'm guessing.
Well,
I'm guessing I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I got one stat for you, useful or useless, by the way.
Okay.
With this snub, Sabonis becomes the first player. And by the way, we did fail to mention that this trade that happened is a jerk-off session for as all these people that like the first time this guy got traded, first time this type of thing. There's like 8,000 first times. But anyways.
Nothing like your first time, bro.
No. With this snub, Sabonis becomes the first player in NBA history to average 20, 12, and 6 and not be named an NBA All-Star. I just thought that was a little
useful. They are 10th. Who's over him? Give me the names over him.
Have no idea, and I don't give a fuck because I ain't watching that thing. All right, I mean, it's not my favorite deal.
Probably KD, Towns East actually.
So the reserves: Wembanyama, Sengun, Davis, Anthony Edwards, James Harden, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jalen Williams.
You can't argue with many of those. Maybe Williams, but they're first, right? Like it's tough to argue with. But if Saka's 6 or 7, he gets in. I think it's the 10 that hurts him.
We need to trademark fact or fake news because Yahoo Sports now has fact or fiction, so it's a little bit similar to what we do.
A bit close to home.
Yeah, fact or fiction. We've been doing fact or fake news for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, there must be listeners.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Anyways,
what do you got? You got anything?
Yeah, fact or fake news. Next 3 years, Dallas Mavericks make more finals appearances than the Los Angeles Lakers. Fact or fake news?
Finals or just like go deeper in the playoffs?
Finals appearances. Lakers, Dallas. Who makes more finals appearances? Hey, look, OKC could have all 3. Who knows?
Yeah, fact. If I'm comparing, your wording's a bit hard for me, but if you're saying that Dallas have a better chance to make the finals than the Lakers in the next 3 years, I would say true. Fact.
Mm-hmm.
But do I think they will? No, I don't think they will. I don't think I just don't think the Mavs will make. I think if you compare the Lakers and the Mavs, I think the Mavs will go deeper in the next 3 years. They'll get to a deeper spot in the playoffs over the next 3 years than the Lakers will. I think the Lakers are a little bit away to rebuild their roster, but I still don't think the Mavs will make the finals. So
good point.
Kind of a half fact.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially this year with their injuries to their bigs, with Lively being out. But yeah, I say it's fact. I think you're right.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, man.
That's all I got, folks.
Thank you. Keep an ear out for any more happenings down there in Dallas. See if they do anything else silly, like maybe they'll move Kyrie for, Joe Ingles to Minnesota or something like that. Who knows?
Always a possibility, brother. You never know in this league. You never know.
If Joe's a Nike athlete still, that is. That's a big part of it, I think.
It's a good point. It's a fair point. But my guy Max Christie comes to Dallas. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Get a chance to see him play. So
take him out for a nice vegan restaurant that you frequent there in Dallas, Pro.
Yeah, I'm not much of a vegan guy, Bogues, but it's all right. We'll see. Maybe some of the places that you frequented when you were here for a couple of weeks when you were here for the Mavs.
A few days. Yeah, I was there for a few days.
Yeah,
there was a few nice spots. All right, we'll see you next week.
Later, guys. Enjoy.
Bye-bye. All right, we'll finish off with some NBL stuff. So a week left in the NBL. Illawarra demolished Tassie to open the round last week. Adelaide lose a close one at Brisbane. Inexcusable loss for them. Almost could have cost them a finals berth, but I think they're pretty much a lock. We'll get into that in a second. Perth Steel won from Southeast Melbourne in Perth. Southeast Melbourne pretty much full control of that game and ended up winning on their own feet towards the end of the game and losing that one by a point. New Zealand beat Cairns to win the Toilet Bowl. Melbourne sneak by Tassie, which pretty much puts Tassie out. Tassie is still alive technically, but they play Cairns as their last game. They need a win by, I don't know what the number is, 40, 50. They need to boost their percentage by, I think it's 3 full percentage points. I just don't think I don't know what the number is, but I think it's pretty super unlikely, like you'd bet your house that it's not going to happen. And on top of that, they need Adelaide to lose for it to happen. Adelaide could lose. They play Perth, I believe. So there are scenarios, but I just don't see, unless 40 just forfeits the game, that they're going to win, that Tassie, are going to win that game by that much. They just don't have enough offensive firepower to do it anyway. So I think they're more than likely going to be 7. Sydney, uninspired performance versus a locked-in Perth yesterday. Sydney just did not look like they had life for much of the game. Perth came in focused, locked in, got to their spots, and just walked all over Sydney at will. Like the result at the end, in my opinion, was closer than the game was. So very disappointing loss for Sydney, but it's gone with the season of ups and downs. Yeah, I mean, just being so up and down, and you just can't figure out kind of the method to the madness at the moment. And I think that's everyone at the moment, within the squad. So the Plains next week, like I said, Adelaide could potentially pick their 5 seed, Trent, which is interesting. Illawarra should lock up 1. Pending other results, Adelaide could strategically, they play they play Perth, so they could strategically lose to Perth if they thought that would give them a better chance to keep Sydney in 5. So if they beat Perth, Sydney could move back up. If they win against Illawarra, so there's a lot that can happen there. But there is some strategic games that Adelaide could play. They could almost, not saying they're going to throw a game, but they could say, we'd much rather play Sydney 5v6 than have a potential where Southeast Melbourne or Perth 4-5. So they could just say, we're just not going to win this game versus Perth. And then that pretty much will solidify Sydney, unless Illawarra completely rest all their guys in the last week of the round because they've locked it up, because they play New Zealand, I think. And if they beat New Zealand, they've locked up 1. So there's a lot of quirkiness with all of this going on.
Even if they beat New Zealand, they still have you guys. Say they lose to the Kings, they still got that 1 spot locked up.
I'm pretty sure, because United have 1 game left, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah, and United can tie them with a win.
Right.
But if Illawarra is, I think, the only team that has 2 games this weekend.
Yeah.
So, it makes things very, very interesting. Adelaide can kind of determine somewhat their destiny, but then the problem for them is that Illawarra and Sydney play the next day. But regardless, it doesn't affect them because they could take that risk and just say, let Perth beat them. Hopefully Sydney loses to Illawarra. That'll put them in 5, and they've matched up really well with Sydney and 3-0 in the season, so they'll probably like that matchup better than Perth with a Bryce. But it could create some argy-bargy and some talking points if teams, because we know how the Australian landscape sporting thinks about throwing games and manipulating results to get better results, better matchups. it's frowned upon in Australia, but it will be interesting. Bryce Cotton to Japan is whirling. That is the go. He hasn't signed an extension with the Perth Wildcats. He will be the MVP in my opinion. I don't think it's even debatable. Like the AMB Media jumped on this KD stuff late in the season and he's put some decent numbers on it. It's not even close. I don't think it's even a debate. Bryce has got that thing locked up, and so he should. But he's rumored to be going over there. Don't know if that's a play to get more value here, where that all lies. But the fact that he hasn't signed that extension is very interesting. There are rumblings that he's not entirely happy in Perth. Don't know if those rumors are true, but it wouldn't be great for the league to lose a star like that. It'd be great for the Sydney Kings. It'd be great for a lot of other clubs that just are sick of having to deal with the absolute menace that he is at the offensive end and the buckets that he puts on you. But that will be very, very interesting.
I think, and you could probably correct me here, but it's going to be dependent on Perth's success this postseason. They obviously haven't had the same success Bryce experienced earlier in his career with them, so whether or not he's looking to go somewhere and be a bit more competitive. But to me, it sounds like a money thing. If he was to go to Japan, it sounds like it's money-based more than anything.
I've heard both. I heard it's... Yeah, money's obviously a factor, and they can probably pay him more. But also, I think he wants to see, like you said, what's the direction of the team? Do they have a chance to win? I've heard he's not completely happy there with the way things were going with play and all that kind of stuff. Don't know if that's management, structuring, roster, teammates, coaching. Don't know. Not putting it on one person. That's just what you hear in the NBL, and it's. If you haven't signed an extension and he'll be the highest paid player in the NBL by far, that's the head scratcher. I think he's smart enough to understand that NBL teams have a ceiling they can get to for you and max it out, but they can't really go start competing with the Japanese team, So I think he knows that, but the fact that he hasn't signed or tried to is interesting in my opinion.
Do you think the NBL will step in to prevent that? Because I've heard that if it got to that point, the NBL might step in and be like, hey, we might
dangerous
be able to
precedent. And as a rival club, there was league sponsorship for Aaron Baines. I think we applied for it when I signed with Sydney, I believe, and the league knocked it back. I think we would straight away apply for some of our players, and like if that happened, like we'd be like Xavier Cooks, like give us a rebate then. And then a bunch of other clubs will do the same thing. It's a very dangerous, slippery slope to do that. But there is no hard and fast rule, and the NBL can kind of is fluid with these kinds of things and just develop a rule overnight and be like, oh, we can pay him $250,000 to be an ambassador for the league. It's dangerous precedent. I don't think it's a good look. Yeah. But look, you want to keep guys in the league, but you also want to keep it a level playing field, and there'll be a lot of clubs that will not be happy if that happened, because they'll be like, hang on a second, like, okay, so you're telling us if we find a needle mover, ambassador, star, you're going to pay some of it? That changes our recruiting process. Yep. Changes the way we go about things. Like we've been priced out of guys by $200,000-300,000. If you're Cairns, for instance, you're like, we could have got this guy who's really good, but we couldn't afford the extra $300K. Now you're saying the league would it's dangerous stuff to deal with, and I think the league needs to be careful. Do I think does Bryce move the absolute needle for road games? Maybe some places, yes. I think he definitely moves the needle for Perth, but I think Perth sells out regardless if Bryce is there or not. That's my opinion. I think they've got a crazy fan base that loves the game. I think whether he's there or not, they're going to go watch games, right? So, whereas I understand the method around an Australian star, Paddy or Bainesy or a Joe, where they'll be on the ground, they're going to live here, they're from, that's a little bit different. With an import, I think it gets a bit trickier. So it will be interesting. The other thing that's come up, I've been tweeting about it, teams have shut down imports late in the season, and I think this brings a conversation into having trades on the table. I think it needs to be discussed. I know the league's looking at it. I know it's the big hurdle is the Players Association and them allowing it. Obviously, with Australian employment law, you can't trump that. That is, that's first and foremost. So players would have to agree to it. But there's ways to do it, and I think when you see teams shutting down imports like this, I think that they'd be perfect candidates that a team like Cairns that knew they were out of it 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, that you can trade those guys. And yes, it does allow teams to stack up their roster talent-wise and sway the talent and stack their roster to get even better for a finals push. But there's quirky things you could do. They'll then go over the salary cap. You then say, okay, for whatever you've gone over the salary cap to stack your team, that money goes to the bottom 4 teams. There's stuff that you can do, right? And you might, if you're a bad team that has an import, let's say Edwards, for instance, and you're like, look, we're not going to make the finals. We're just going to try to move him off our books as soon as possible, which they've done for the last couple of games. You move him and maybe you get a young development player and a couple other players, you shed some salary. Kansas is happy. They get a couple of players back in return that are younger, that aren't playing, fringe bench guys. I think it's something that needs to be looked at. I think it'd be really cool. I think you have a little period, like a little window in the mid-season. You have a little window in the preseason. Your Blanchfields of the world, your Nortons of the world, these kind of guys who have, mind you, now have valuable roles for their team. Blanchfield's a 5 to 10 minute gunner for them, valuable in some games. Norton was starting pretty much the whole season. There's plenty of those guys. Isaac White was another guy that was stuck, couldn't get minutes for half the season. It gives them an opportunity to move. I think it creates a talking point that we don't have in Australian sport. No one's really doing it. I think there's a lot of positives. The hurdle is the Players Association approving it. And I get why. I mean, there's nothing worse than just being traded on a whim, but obviously players would have to agree. Cost of living thing can be figured out. You move from Cairns to Sydney on the same salary, hard to do because you're trying to find you're not getting an apartment in Sydney for $500 a week like you are in Cairns on the water, right? So you got to figure out all that kind of stuff. But I think it's something that needs to be looked at. And what triggered me to talk about it is just the fact that teams are shutting down their imports. PJC has been shut down. They've saved money now by not paying him. You've also got Edwards in Cairns. And then the only other one that I've heard Kendrick Davis has signed in Israel. Don't know where that is. That has not been announced publicly, but I've heard that's something that's been, funnily enough, leaked from someone within the team there to somebody I know. Said that he's gone and signed over there. He put out some social media posts a couple of days ago saying, thank you, Adelaide, it's been great. So I think that coincides with that. I think that I doubt he's coming back. Interested to see if it was just for the rest of the season. But a talent like that gets seen over there, and if he can somewhat behave himself, he should stay there. So you hate to see good imports leave, but that's a rumor mill there. Like I said, don't know if these things are 100% concrete, but the people I talk to are pretty in the know with that kind of stuff. And then the Boomers up down to the final 5 as reported by the media. So I am on one of the 4 on the selection panel, so I can't divulge anything that's going on, nor will I. I can only report this because it's been reported by the media. I'll just give a tip to the media. They might have some of the names wrong in their final 5, which is interesting to see on the NBL telecast this weekend. There might be some names that you've probably got a little bit wrong that you might want to revisit. So I was laughing a little bit at that, getting those names wrong, but hopefully that is solidified within the next 10 days completely, if all goes well. So that's pretty exciting for the Australian Boomers.
I just had a question about your final 6. Just watching the games this last weekend, I feel like Adelaide's gotten pretty lucky with some of the results in Tassie. They've lost some key games that they definitely should have won, and they've definitely been bailed out by Tassie, injury bug, whatever.
Yep.
What do you think of them rotating 7 guys? The last few games I've watched, they are too deep off the bench. They literally play 7 guys. Is that sustainable? Adelaide. Yeah. Is that sustainable heading into the play-in and the playoffs? Do you realistically see them being able to win a 3-game series? With 7 guys in their rotation?
No, I think he'll tighten it up if they make a 3-game series.
Tighten it up more than the current 7?
You mean they're playing 12 deep, 12 total, right?
No, they're playing. They're 5 starters and 2 off.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, they definitely need to play a little bit more, but
right.
it's So at the moment is it Martin and Kadee really, right?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah,
And
Detch maybe here and there gets sprinkled in, but yeah.
I think they're situational. I think probably if I was a head coach, I'm a 8, 9, and then circumstantial.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I think playing deeper than that, I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But I'm also not I'm not a Tibbs, Andrew Gaze, where you're like playing your starters 38, 39, you know what I mean? So I think there's a balance there, but yeah, I think that's tough. But I think in the play-in and the finals, if he feels like that 7 is so much better playing 38 and there's a massive drop-off after that 7, I think he's going to stay with it. I don't think he's going to change it.
I just can't recall a time ever seeing any sort of professional basketball team running.
Well, he was playing crazy deep early. Like I commentated a game, Adelaide-Brisbane. They did have a few injuries, but there was a suspensions. He was playing like his subs. I commented on air saying, I think this is the most subs in a game I've seen. Like, it was literally every minute there was a guy running up on the bench from Adelaide, right? So it went from that, then got all his starters back, and just like Rasmussen started playing minute. That's all gone.
Nick Marshall's completely
started at the start of the season, didn't he? So you just look, they are 6 because of where they're at talent wise, cohesion. They haven't been great. They've been up and down. They're the most talented team in the 6, I think. They're 7. They're top 7, top 8. I think is up there with the most talented in my opinion as far as names and pieces. Just hasn't fit that well.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't think he's going to change it. I just think he's going to roll the dice.
I just thought you could make the argument it's not working. Like, with the couple of games that they've dropped, they lucked out Tassie losing to Melbourne. Like, this could be a much closer fight for that 6th if Tassie were full strength.
If Tassie didn't have that injury patch where they lost half, Magnace to that and all that, Adelaide would not be in. Adelaide needed it. But that's how these things go.
Yeah.
And they could arguably beat Sydney in the 5-6. They could arguably beat South East Melbourne in 5-6 and then win the next round and then get to they could arguably do that. And no one's watching that more than Illawarra. Because Illawarra's like they're 3-0 versus Illawarra, right? So Illawarra's probably like, holy shit, Sydney, knock them out, or Southeast, someone knock them out, just knock them out, So they could cause some trouble in the 6, which is why it's interesting for how bad they've played the last week or two.
Yeah,
going 0-2 that weekend. I mean, you got to beat Brisbane at least, but Tasmania. They're 3 percentage points. We'd have to get the math wizards out to figure out what that means. But I think it's 50, 60 points.
Yeah, and I get that, but it's just so interesting to me in a professional sporting environment going that route. Like you see it at rep teams, maybe a state team or whatever.
Over the course of a season, it's
just
not
wild,
good. I think you can tighten up in the playoffs and the finals. You can go 7.5, 8.
Yep.
I think in the regular season you need to use different guys. Not only that, you got to make sure everyone's always ready. You might have an injury late in the season where all of a sudden now you're putting a guy that's played 3 or 4 minutes or barely played. And I need you, mate. I believe in you. And you're like, do you really? So that's where it's strategic with coaches. And there's time and place in certain games where you might be down 15 with 4 minutes left and no real chance. Let them have a crack. Like different, put them in situations where we're up 5, situational, give them some kind of currency of playing in tight games. You have to do that, but I just don't think he'll change it. And I think Detch is an interesting one because I think he's their best defender by far.
And when he initially came back, he was getting 15 plus.
Yeah.
Like he was actually getting some run, but it's slowly just gone down and down every round. So
they've got DJ who needs minutes and touches. KD's going to play 35 plus. Humphreys needs touches or goes AWOL a little bit, and then Harold's a firecracker. So it's like those 4 are playing 35 plus, and you got one guy between those other 3, which is why they're 7, I think.
Yeah,
it's just that one guy's plugging in the gaps.
It just
right?
It was super.
And Jarrell as well. Well, Jarrell's hurt now too. So he's hurt. So it's interesting to see if he's healthy for the games coming up the following week. For the play-ins, he should be all right, but I think it's a foot or an ankle. So, it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. And then you got some teams that go, Sydney goes super deep at times and then goes a little bit shorter on the leash. Southeast Melbourne will go pretty deep at times. I mean, they got their guard rotation's crazy. They got, Ben Air, Foxwell, now with Walton out. So it's been Illawarra goes pretty deep as well.
Yeah,
because they got a lot.
They have the ability to.
And they got like fringe guys that are like good contributors on NBL, to Blanchfield, these kind of guys that are 11, 12 guys that are like could be playing big minutes for some teams in the league, you know. So
it's interesting, and I think like it just seems like there's no clear championship team right now, in my opinion. Like I saw Southeast give up in a 19-point lead to Perth, and then they almost lose again next game. Sydney are just up and down.
Melbourne got lucky beating Tassie.
Melbourne is like in the center spot. Like it makes no sense to me how they're second in the NBL. I thought they were way too depleted in size wise. Jack White hasn't been like overly impressive. Yeah. They've been injury bugged. I just doesn't seem like there's a clear cut like two this year, where I feel like previously
you had a feel,
and it felt like if that team lost, it would be an upset. Whereas right now, I feel like anyone's beatable.
And every team has a bogey team. It's wild. Like you got like I said, Illawarra, their bogey team's Adelaide, who was 6th. You know, and like those kind of things. Melbourne's gone 3-0 against Sydney. Southeast Melbourne can't beat Sydney. They're on 3. You know, like it's super wild. All the cross matches of teams that can't play against other teams, and then they beat other teams. It's just like it is, and that's what you want. It's wide open. Obviously this should all finalise. I think Saturday's the last game. I think, or Saturday or Sunday. I think Saturday's the last games of the round this week.
Yeah, Saturday.
So then we should have an answer Saturday night as to the plans. I think the plans are. I think they're going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of the following week, because they need to get them done before the FIBA break, which is the following weekend. Yeah, they can't stretch it out anymore, and then we'll have some answers. Yeah,
it was very interesting. I just like you would have a better idea following the league, but I don't remember a time where I was like, if I had to pay his money, I wouldn't know who to go with.
That's what. Yeah, it's very, and that would be why I think. Let's see. I'm just refreshing this NBL ladder. That would be why it's the first time there's no championship odds from Sportsbet. It's just blank.
Yeah, right.
For all the teams, because they're probably like, what do we do?
Yeah, exactly.
What do we do? Sydney weren't supposed to be there. Adelaide, or like Melbourne. It's all over the place. So anyway, enjoy the basketball this week. I'm sure there's going to be some more trades the next couple of days, which is exciting, and we'll see you all next week.